This is the beginning of a glorious day on the Amalfi coast because I am located between two mountains. It's still rather shady where I am, but you can see over here the sun is shining already. Let's ignore that horrendous cruise ship. Can't imagine a worse way of traveling than with other thousands of people in a boat and then having just a few hours on shore. And what I want to sketch is this view. You can't really see it well in the camera, but in the distance there are mountains. That's the end of the Gulf of Salerno. The Amalfi Coast is the top half of the Gulf of Salerno. And I'm going to focus on two typical features of the Amalfi Coast. And one is a bell tower. Each city has at least one, and this is of course my favorite. It's the one of Santa Maria Maddalena in Atrani, the one that MC Escher reproduced in some of his drawings. And then the other important feature is a pine tree. I love pine trees in general, and the pine trees in the Amalfi Coast are really amazing, and people here also love them. They don't take them for granted. So I'm going to make a vertical sketch of what I just showed you. I'll show you my setup here. I'm on the stairs, and I have readied my, well, this is really my main one, but I had another one that I just brought in because I'm near my house and I could just bring it along. Two little water containers, and Nalgene brand. They really never leak, which is great. And pencil, pen, eraser, which I lose on a regular basis. This is my pouch where I keep all my stuff, and I forgot to take out my two travel brushes. And for wiping my brush, I do have Kleenexes, but I'm always afraid of running out, so I often my husband laughs at this. After when we go out to dinner, if the napkin is of good quality, I rip out the part that I dirtied and keep the part that that works. So that's my little crazy thing to do. So I did a very loose sketch of what you've seen, what I've showed you. So the mountains in the background, a little boat, and the bell tower, and the pine tree. And now I'm gonna adjust my camera, and so this time I'm going to try to keep my lines, my pen lines, really minimal. So just indicate where things are, basically. What's interesting about the cross on top of that church, I don't know if you saw my other video, there was no cross because they put it up there a month before the feast of St. Mary Magdalene. And the feast of St. Mary Magdalene is in late August. I never remember exactly the day. So in late July, sorry. So in late June, they put the cross up. Though from my vantage point, I can't see this other window because of the house. I decided I wanted it there, so I eliminated part of the house. And the tree in particular I would like to leave loose. It has a very characteristic shape. I think each of these trees does. I think of them as the trees that look most like human. I don't know why. They make me think of humans. I am not somebody who worships trees or anything like that, other than what is, I think, reasonably due to them, a certain gratitude for what they do for our air. Okay, this is the roof of the church there. A church that is only open either once a month. Yeah, once a month. And as soon as this dries, which will be easy because it's very breezy, so I'll start here and erase the pencil lines. Something I like about that ink is that it's waterproof but also dries fast. As you can see, you can barely call this a sketch. It's the first time this trip that I do so little with the pen. Let's see how it goes. And I'm not going to show you because moving the camera is problematic, but I have this little spritzer that I always carry with me, and before I paint, I spritz my paints. I'm using watercolor pans of handmade watercolors, but I do this even when I use my regular travel palette. And I dip the brush in water, and this is a primary blue that is rather powerful. I'm going to add a little pink here to honor the morning. I have the camera clamped on one of those gorilla I think it's called a gorilla tripod, and it's actually clamped to my left thigh, so I hope it's not too messy. This is a darker blue. You could use a cobalt or a ultramarine. I want to show some in the little windows here. And I hope the breeze doesn't make the recording of the sound too bad, because it's certainly helpful in drying the layers. I'm gonna use a golden ochre for the first layer of this roof, and also this is a similar. I gave all my colors names inspired by Vermont, and it's a little bit of a problem here because they're not really names appropriate for this area. Like the sky color I called winter. Well, it's not the season you think about when you think of the Amalfi Coast. I would have liked more white in the background for this tree. So I'm just lifting some of the color with a clean restaurant napkin. Okay. And I'm going to use a darker ochre. I think it's called chocolate. I called it chocolate. I think it's a red ochre. I love the idea of ochres and that they are just earth that appears in different colors in different parts of the world, and it gets cooked in different ways to obtain different hues, just like we say raw umber, burnt sienna. It just means that it's exposed to heat, and that causes a change, right? When you burn a cake, it's darker than it should be. I'm using a light gray, called this marble, which is less inappropriate than some of the colors I have. While it's dry, I'm going to darken a little bit this and add a little bit of that chocolate. I believe I called it chocolate creamy. Exploiting the power of complementaries so that brown and blue give me a bit of a gray. There is a pinkish house in front of the church. And for the fronds, I'm mixing here, you can't see it, but I'm mixing my basic green that I have with some ultramarine blue. And I think it's called scumbling. I'm using the side of my brush and the brush is not dry and the mix is rather wet. In fact, it could stand being a little bit drier. I want to preserve the rather unbalanced shape of this tree. It's much larger on one side than on the other. Oops, I dropped the water the first time this trip. Luckily, I have another one. And I'm going to drop some yellow at the top while it's still dry. This could be a disadvantage of having a quickly drying. This is ultramarine. It dries so fast that the wet and wet is tricky. But it's cute. Oh, that boat. So I have a little black here. It's just a suggestion. This is one of the many container boats that you see. I'm very fond of container boats because when my family moved to the States, we had a container in our front yard for a while to put all our belongings in. And then a while later, came to our new home in the United States. So I'm using something that is similar to burnt sienna. So if you don't have my handmade watercolors, you can use burnt sienna. Otherwise, I wish I could tell you the name of this, but I don't remember it. And I think it's time. Wait, I'll do that here too. This is a roof that's in front of the church, but behind that front house. These are the main steps to Ravello, which is a very popular town. So I hear people coming. It could be from inside the apartment complex. Could be tourists coming down to the beach from Ravello. I'll find out soon enough. If they do, I'll just discreetly stop talking. So this is my handmade thrush. It's a color I'm very fond of. It's not an ochre. It's a French pigment that is 10% synthetic pigment on a natural mineral base. Like, I have several pigments like that. I really like them. In fact, I don't know if most of them, but several of the pigments I've used here they're lovely. They really help save me from my tendency to go dark and intense. I need help with that. I'm gonna put some gray here, and I'm gonna use a little turquoise for these shutters because I don't want them to blend completely with the tree. And a little bit of yellow here to the house. And if my husband were here, he would tell me to stop. And I will conjure his presence and stop. So here you have my little sketch with minimal pen. The next step would be to use no pen and just pencil, and the next step after that would be to just draw without to paint without previous drawing, which is a dream of mine. I do it sometimes with simpler subjects. With architectural subjects, it's a little iffy. So thank you for being here, for enjoying a bit of the oh, that's the ugly boat. Let's not go that way. For enjoying a little bit of the Amalfi coast. So I'm here again. It's the next day, and I just wanted to show you the finished sketch and a couple of changes I made. I'm gonna put this down. So first of all, I added a thin other layer over the mountain just to give it a little bit of depth, a little bit of darkness over the ship. That was a recommendation by my husband. And another layer on the tree to just give it some more dimension, with more blue on the bottom and more yellow on the top. And I added a few lines of dark brown to better define the campanile, the bell tower. So I hope this was helpful, and thank you for watching.